On the aftermath of the Rwandan Genocide. So I'm going to begin by giving a little bit of a background on the genocide. During the time of the genocide, Rwanda consisted of three main tribes. Those were, first of all, the Tutsi, who consisted of 9% of the populace. Second of all, the Hutu, who were a vast majority of the populace, consisting of about 90%. And last of all, the Twa, who were a very, very small minority of under 1% of the entire population. So these tribes had always had some, at least mainly the Hutu and Tutsi had some disputes among each other, and for decades the Tutsi had been considered the elite of Rwanda, and consequently their leadership, Rwandan leadership, was consistently comprised of members of the Tutsi tribe. However, after World War II, Belgium took control of Rwanda, and they supported the Tutsi rule for a while. However, later, Hutu members became upset, very upset, at the inequality, and there began to be many uprisings against the Tutsi leadership, the consistent Tutsi leadership. And Belgium evaluated it and decided to switch their side. They then sided with the Hutu tribe and helped them to overthrow the Tutsi leadership and establish a Hutu government. Soon after that, Belgium completely withdrew their influence in Rwanda and allowed the tribes to work it out among themselves. And at that time, the Tutsi were then very powerless, as they had their power taken away from them, their leadership. And the Hutu were extremely angry for the past years that they had been subject to the Tutsi leadership. So the Hutu began this genocide for the Tutsi. They called them cockroaches and used that to inspire all Hutu members throughout Rwanda to slaughter the Tutsi. And the Tutsi drew out of Rwanda into some of the surrounding adjacent countries and began to set up strongholds there. And the Hutu tribe didn't pursue them, but what they did do is they stayed in Rwanda and made a combined effort to rid Rwanda completely of every single Tutsi. And that was what we know as the Rwandan Genocide. The Hutu tribe would group together, the tribes, and they would walk through cities with machetes and slaughter every Tutsi member they could find. And in a survey completed by the Institute for the Study of Genocide, 97% of survivors said that they had lost a close relative. 97% of every Tutsi member who survived the Rwandan genocide had lost a close relative. And the population prior to this genocide was 7,700,000 people within Rwanda. And during that time of the genocide, the Hutu slaughtered nearly 1 million of the Tutsi members, which dropped the population a full million and is extremely detrimental. Not only was this extremely saddening, but it also resulted in a decay, a governmental decay, an economic decay, and a societal decay. I'd like to show you a video real quick of some of the results of the genocide in Rwanda.
Rwanda at the end of the genocide as a country where nobody was home.
Infrastructures like roads and hospitals, schools were really damaged during the genocide.
The economy took a nosedive. The production of tea and coffee just fell right away. And the effect was devastating for 5 or 6 years.
As the huge refugee camps in Zaire and Tanzania were disbanded, 2 million people came back into Rwanda. Hutus returning home were afraid that Tutsi survivors would kill them,
They said these people, they didn't die, and now we are coming to live together. And the people were afraid. They said they have RPF on their side, they are going to kill us.
And for the survivors, to find yourself living beside potential killers was often too much.
Because it was traumatizing to see a Hutu. You could see into him a killer. And you could scream and say, he's coming to kill me again. And just to protect the survivors, many people went to prisons because of that.
It was a time to be scared. I couldn't blame people. Many of them didn't know where they were going to live, didn't know what they were going to eat. It was dog eat dog, and they were tough days, 97 and 98, and it then led into the war in the northwest in the Rwandan-Gisenyi area, where many people who had escaped the events of 94 then lost their loved ones in that time.
So as we saw there, the genocide not only resulted in a very detrimental loss of people in Rwanda, but it also had tremendous effects on the structure of Rwanda, the infrastructure, the government. The genocide took place during Bill Clinton's presidency, and one of the things he says is, "One of the greatest regrets of my presidency is that I did not send forces as a part of a UN mission to stop it." In 1998, when Hillary and I visited Rwanda, I apologized for not doing more sooner and asked to meet with supervisors who were trying to put their country right. As we see here, Bill Clinton was extremely regretful of his decisions to stay out of Rwanda, as the U.S. would have had the possibility and potential to stop such killings. So I'd like you guys to meet Olivier. He is a man who survived the genocides, who was from the Tutsi tribe. He says, speaking of his family back in Rwanda prior to the genocide, "I loved getting together with all our family for a chat. We used to have a huge family, uncles, aunties, cousins. I really miss that. I remember I used to play the organ at the church with my grandfather when I was little. I used to enjoy that, but now I can't. I miss him." This is the example of what happened not only to Olivier, but hundreds of thousands of people. Olivier was unfortunate enough to have lost nearly 50 close relatives because of the genocide. So that's a little bit about the genocide and a little bit of the aftermath that it caused. It was truly a detrimental thing to Rwanda, and people are still, as you see here, very much harmed by its effects. So that is my presentation. Thank you guys for listening, and here are all of my sources.